Welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast. We're back, episode 2.
Hello.
I'm Garrett Frazee. I started my business in 2021. I made $55,000 my first year working, and I only worked 30 hours a week. So my mind was totally changed on how easy it was to start your own business and find success.
I am Grant Frazee. I actually just started my business maybe like 6 months ago, and I don't know how much I've made this year, but hopefully it's a lot. And yeah, I've been doing this kind of handyman work for on and off for like 4 or 5 years. So that's who I am. So I have a little experience in this kind of business, but
that's great.
There's a lot to learn. So today I think I got a lot to learn.
If you just tuned in, that is our goal. We just want to talk about we're simple men. We have simple businesses, but we found success that we're happy with. So we want to encourage other people to pursue that. Maybe you already have your own business and you just want to hear other people that are doing it and feel some encouragement and camaraderie with people who are in the same lot as you. So please join us.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be focusing on pricing. So we'll dig into that. But first I want to ask a question that we're going to ask at the start of every show. And the question is this: what is your most recent job or your current job that you're working on, and how is it going?
I have been working on the same job for like probably 2 years now. I think it's been I think 2 months, a little over 2 months. And I still got about a month to go, and it's just like a whole remodel thing. And right now I've been working on baseboards, just finished that up, and door trim, fun stuff, a lot of finished carpentry kind of work right now.
So you were doing a lot of like almost a whole kitchen remodel, right?
I did most of the kitchen. I am actually, this next week I'll be doing the backsplash in the kitchen. And I did all the cabinets and didn't do the tile flooring. I hired someone else for that because they're doing the whole upstairs tile, so I didn't mess with that, just doing it myself. But I did most of the kitchen work.
Well, Grant likes to pretend like he has no idea what he's doing in his business, but he's quite talented when it comes to the day-to-day work that he does. So I'm sure what you put together in that kitchen is pretty amazing.
It does look good, yeah.
And maybe somewhere we'll have to post pictures of some sort of what you did.
That'd be great.
My most recent job, well, I did something a little more recently, but it wasn't that exciting. But we didn't talk last episode about my most recent job, unfortunately.
Oh, so, yeah. Garrett, what's your most recent job?
I'll talk about that. So this was like 2 weeks ago now. I had this client who I'd worked for in the past, and he lives in Mesa. We live in Mesa. Well, actually, you live in Gilbert.
I do live in Gilbert. Very close to Mesa, though.
Close to Phoenix, too, for those who are wondering.
From Mesa line.
Anyway, this guy lived near downtown Mesa, and he lived in this house for like a year, and him and his wife moved to San Diego, and instead of selling the house, they decided to rent it out. And I was contacted by him after he moved out, and he said, I have some work for you. Even though we moved out, we have some renters, and I have a couple projects that I want you to do. He had me work on something under the sink and try to fix the dishwasher, and something with their skylight was leaking. So anyways, a few things. And he told me before I got to the house, he's like, the renters that are in there right now, we're not too happy with them. We heard some stuff from the neighbors that they're doing weird things, so we might be we might be evicting them soon. So he's like, just beware. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm getting into, but we'll see. I knock on the door, and yeah, I don't want to sound rude, but this woman clearly smoking a pack a day, and she opens the door, and there's just wafts of the worst stench I've ever smelled in my life. Boy. Just like poop. You can just smell it from every animal conceivable. And she opens the door.
That's the kind of workplace you want to walk into.
I know. It was a nightmare. There are turkeys, like enormous turkeys, on their couch, just living in their living room. Like they're watching TV. There's a turkey on the couch next to them. This is not a joke. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Garrett showed me a photo, and there's just a gigantic
They're enormous,
turkey
right?
on a couch.
Was this not the biggest turkey you've ever seen?
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're not meant to be in the houses. Like go grow gigantic. It's insane.
I don't really see. I've seen maybe a couple turkeys in person. I don't even know where, but like I don't see them often. But they are hideous creatures.
Oh yeah, I don't know why you'd want it as a pet. So there's turkeys. I don't know if I told you this, Grant, because I had to go back. Okay, and I went there twice. And the second time I went there, I had to do work under the sink. I opened the sink. There's a rat that's living there. It's their pet rat, apparently. I open it, and it's just staring at me. Like, it didn't run. It didn't do anything. It was just looking at me, and it was eating wires and stuff. I'm like, this is not okay.
He's eating wires?
Yeah, it was really bad.
Wow.
So anyway, I had to be there for like 6 hours that day, and it was really unfortunate because it was legitimately one of the worst smells I've ever experienced in my life, and I had to be in it for 6 hours. So it was just a cloud of death.
Did their ratatouille at least make you a sandwich while you're in there?
No, it was the most incompetent ratatouille. Anyway, that was a long story, but it was a disaster.
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
The moral of the story is sometimes, guys, when you're in this business, you have to work with ratatouille.
Yeah.
And it stinks, but, I still made money, so it was worth it, I guess.
It's worth it for money. Most things are worth it for the money. So
That is so true. Yeah, I wish I'd have made a little bit more on that one, though. Anyway. Okay, here's a question. And we're going to start talking about pricing. You know what? Let's take a break first.
Okay. Hold on. Take a break.
Yeah, quick break.
Sometimes in this life you wish the future could be the past.
All right, welcome back to the show. So,
Welcome back to the BCBP.
I like that.
Yep.
Blue Collar Business Podcast.
BCBP.
You just came up with that?
I just did 10 minutes ago.
That's beautiful. All right, I have a question for you, Grant. So you've been working at your business for a little bit now. Like you said, you've been on this project for like 2 months. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, not just this project, but other ones in the past too, what's been your strategy for calculating what to charge people?
It's not so much of a strategy. It's more just like, all right, I got to send them a number. I got an hour. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
So what I did this last time, I mean, it worked okay. Things have taken longer than expected. They also added a few things, so it's kind of expected to take a little bit longer. But how I priced it or came up with my pricing estimate was I just thought of everything that I was going to do, and I just like spent like a couple hours
Just
writing
your
it
brain?
down.
Oh, you wrote it down.
I wrote it down like, okay, I'm going to be putting in baseboards. I'm going to have to caulk all the baseboards. I'm going to have to fill in all the nail holes. Just like wrote down each individual thing. All of it. Like, so it was a pretty long list because it's a pretty big project.
Yeah.
And then I would just assign an hourly number to that, like how many hours it might take to get all that done.
Got it.
And they were all way too low. But that's generally how I met. And then I just totaled it all up. And then I, added, a little bit of extra in there. Like threw in some extra hours just because I know I'm going to go long on anything. Yeah. I should have added way more on the extra. But
So you said that it was, in retrospect that it was way too low. Did you think that you were like highballing it at the time? Or were you lowballing
actually,
it?
not really. I thought I did kind of put in a lot of extra, like that I didn't assign any value to. I just like,
few extra
any
hours
one of these
here and
things is going to take a little bit longer than I think I wrote down.
Okay.
So I just threw in some extra hours, and I threw in a lot, but it still wasn't enough, I don't think. But yeah, that's how I did this one. That's how I've done it before too. It's just I just kind of think of what it's going to take, and then I just assign some hours to it, and then total it up, and then convert it to cash.
Yeah. Do you maybe this isn't an important question, but do you ask people for money right then and there before you leave, or do you ask them to send it to you electronically after the fact?
I don't really have like a set way of doing it. I don't know. I guess I just kind of feel out what the person's like. And these people I'm working for are like really nice and chill about it. So I knew that they would.
How do they pay
Be
you?
good on payment. They just have given me cash. Like
Cash?
I asked for some.
Oh, non-taxable.
What I did was I asked for some money for materials, and they gave me just like $3,000 in cash. And
Whoa.
I mean, they'll pay me the rest of what I'm earning labor wise at the end of the project, I think. But right now, I have enough, to pay for the materials and stuff.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, they just pay me cash, so yeah, Uncle Sam doesn't need to know.
Just so you know, everybody, we're not advocating for tax evasion. I'm just saying it's hard to, cash is
It's one way to run a
self-regulated.
very profitable business, but not a good one.
Yeah, we try to step away from that, but
Yeah, I actually suggested like Venmo or checks, but they just decided they want to get.
what do you think is the most common way people pay you? Most common format?
Probably Venmo.
Yeah, I
just think it's super
for me
easy.
too. I think that people pay me maybe most through Zelle.
Zelle. I've
direct
done
banking.
a couple through Zelle, yeah.
Yeah, fortunately, you can't evade taxes with Zelle and Venmo.
No, or Venmo.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
You used to be able to with Venmo. It was a big deal when
I
it
know.
changed, apparently. But I was always living by the book, so I was paying my taxes, so it didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to look into that, we're not recommending it, but it's a possibility. Okay. I want to talk about my experience too, calculating
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you do it?
prices.
'Cause
So
I don't really have a method. It's just like, I don't know how else I would do it. So that's just,
yeah,
that's the only idea I
I've
had.
tried a lot actually, and this is part of why I think it's helpful for us to talk about is just to help people get an idea of how this is pretty attainable, and you can try different strategies, and just kind of what works kind of manifests itself, I guess. It's not any special formula that's going to give you success.
Right. Like for me, it was just like, all right, what's my best idea in figuring this out? And I just went with it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even a good idea, but it's just all I could do is just think about what I'm going to do and total it up.
That's similar to how I do it. I try to just map it out in my mind of how many hours it's going to take me. And then I just, with those hours, I'm like, okay, I would like to make, my goal is to make $80 an hour. I almost never do that. That's how I try to estimate it, unless it's like friends, and then I do maybe 40 or 50. Mm-hmm. But if it's people that I don't know, and if it's not like, I give friends and family a way better price. But anyway, so I just try to map it out in my head and then assign hours to it. But when I first started in 2021, I had these like professional looking documents I made up for estimates and receipts and everything. I just found some format online and I copied it and pasted it into my Word document and just went from there. And I used that for probably the first year and a half of my business. Like on every transaction, I would write up an estimate,
Was it just
send
like
it to them by email.
reference to like see how long things would take on average? Or
No,
what
I
is
wanted
this
to be
list?
I wanted to be professional, so I just downloaded like an estimate template.
For
for
it's
like
something
that a lot of businesses
to
would
give
use.
to the client.
Yeah, and so I would email it to them directly with like my estimate price, and for my estimates, I would
That's
always
professional. I sent a text message.
it was pretty professional. I would always include a range in my values too. Like my estimate would be $150 to $250. So my estimate would have those two values, and I'd say it's going to be somewhere in between those two values. And I only like 2 times had people complain about that. I just didn't like kind of wedging myself into one number, because then I felt like I would have to charge that. Anyway, I didn't have any wiggle room with the end price. I would just have to, I would feel bad if I gave them an estimate price and then didn't give them that price at the end. So I wanted to give them 2 numbers, because that way it would help me. Like if things went way longer than I expected and something went wrong and I'd have to charge them more, I could do that in good conscience.
So like you had a low number and a higher number.
Yeah. The way I would do it too, to kind of cover my bases, was I would put the low number at like what I thought it was going to be, and not like my highest possible, but I was like, even like you said, you added some hours to your work. Like I would do that even in my low number. And then my high number would be like, I'm just going to add like $100, $200.
Okay.
And so that worked for me.
Right.
I did that for a long time. The last like 6 months, maybe I've gotten lazy. I realized people don't care. Like it's nice if you're professional, but if they already trust you and they already think that you're credible and you're good at what you do, they don't really need professional documents. I think starting off, it was good for me to kind of build my credibility and network.
Yeah.
But now I've kind of stepped away from it just because it doesn't really seem to be worth my time anymore. I'll just text people, here's what I think it's going to cost, and then I'll text them the end cost.
Right.
Or I'll tell them in person. Like this last job that I did was for some people in Gilbert, and I just told them over the phone. They called me. I told them how much I thought it would cost, and then at the end of it, they wanted to pay me in a check. So I just told them verbally what the end price was, and they were happy with that. And I was happy with that because I didn't have to work up a whole document. It was just not worth my time.
That works. I mean, when you did the two different numbers, like how often did you actually end up with a cheaper number? Or was it like always the second higher number?
Oh, I always did the higher number.
Yeah.
Not to be like greedy, but just because like you experience the same thing. You always take longer than you expect.
Almost always. Actually, no, not almost. Every single time I take longer than I expect.
So even my like way longer than I expect to.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm highballing it on the second value, like really highballing it. And then at the end of the day, that high number is me making like $80 an hour, but I'm still making like 40. And I'm like, what happened? But that's just how it works out. Maybe we'll get better. I really want to get the job. And so maybe I should just give people a higher estimate. But that's kind of what I was building toward. Like when I was really hustling at this business, that's what my goal was to get more like jobs coming in. That way I could just give people a price that I wanted and not feel bad about it. And then if somebody said no, I had somebody else who might say yes. So I wouldn't have to feel like I had to be scraping for the lowest price I could, eke out, but I could actually charge what I really wanted, which was probably more than I thought it would take. Anyway, that worked for me for a while. And like I said, now it's pretty laid back. I'm just texting people generally what I think the prices are going to be. Another question for you related to this is, do you always tell people like an estimate of how much it's going to be? Like if someone asks you, hey, can you change out my toilet? Are you going to give them an estimate of how much that's going to cost? Or are you just going to go change the toilet and then give them a price?
If it's something that small, yeah. I mean, I'll tell them it's going to be like, for a toilet, I don't know, like $80 plus. Or for, I don't know how long a toilet would take.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. But, I just say like some number plus, and then, it just charge them whatever it costs at the end.
Yeah.
If it's only like a few hours, then,
I pretty much always give people estimates unless it's somebody I've worked for several times. And then they kind of already have an idea of how much I charge for my time. Yeah. So we're not like, they're not guessing how much it's going to be. They kind of already know. And so like this one I did last week, like I mentioned, these people that paid me with a check, I didn't tell them how much it was going to cost before I went there because I'd already worked for them a handful of times. And so they had a good idea. So I just went there, did the work, and then I gave them a price at the end.
Yeah. I think even when I say like I don't send an estimate, like I still do send a number. It's just like,
oh, you do?
But I haven't really done that many like smaller projects. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Me and Grant are different in that way. Like he usually does, like the fact that he's been working on this kitchen for 2 months is not uncommon for him. Whereas for me, I'm usually doing jobs that are like a day or two. Yeah. So we're working with different strategies too. Like it is harder to estimate big jobs.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention here was something that did not work for me for pricing and as far as estimating prices. This only happened to me a couple times, but I was walking with somebody through their house and they were showing me some things they wanted me to work on. One of them, I think, was I was fixing the outdoor window trim on their door because it had like eroded from their sprinklers, just water over time, and ruined the wood. And so I was going to fix the window trim, and the guy was like, how much is it going to cost for this? And he wanted an answer right there. And I was like, oh, I don't know, $50. And
that doesn't sound
and
like
then
a good
afterwards I was like, oh, I don't feel good about that. And then I felt weird because I already told him a price, and I didn't want to tell him that felt low. So I ended up doing it for $50. And at the end of the project, I made like $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And so I wish that I had not told him. I wish I would have said,
Yeah, well, what
let
have
me
you done?
let me text you later. Let me call you later. Let me think
Okay.
about it. Like, I'm not sure yet. I need to think about how much that would cost, and then I'll let you know later. Like, I don't think you would have been upset with that answer.
Yeah. No,
And then I
seems
would
fine.
have been able to say something I was actually happy with. Because at the end of that project, I was not happy with how much I made. Like, I could have made way more doing something else.
Yeah,
so
that's unfortunate.
even if I had said $150 and he said, oh, that's too much, I would have rather just not done it than work for $50.
Yeah. $10 an hour is not so good.
Yeah. Well, that makes it seem like I worked there for 5 hours. So I might be exaggerating. It probably didn't take me 5 hours to do it.
Okay.
But whatever it was not enough money for my my pockets. All right. What would you say has been working for you with pricing and estimating? I guess we kind of touched on that, but do you have any more thoughts?
No, I mean, I don't think I have much more to say on that, because I would like to do things, I think, a little better, but I haven't really done anything different than what I said.
What would be better for you, do you think?
Well, I've always kind of wanted to like set up a like some kind of spreadsheet of like, or just track while I'm working how long certain jobs take me to do.
Oh, like calculate like a stopwatch kind of?
Yeah, not quite that exact, but like a fairly accurate estimate of how long this certain job, like baseboards, like how long does it take me to do, like, I don't know.
Then you could have something to reference for future jobs.
A certain amount of baseboards, like let's say like 20 square feet of baseboards or 20 linear feet of baseboards. Like how long would that take me?
Yeah.
Total, like with caulking and nail holes and painting.
So then you'd be able to look at that and be like,
Yeah,
it takes
and then I would
me...
just have a spreadsheet of how long each thing would take, and then I could just reference that for future jobs.
That's really smart. I never thought of that.
I think it would be a great idea, but I just have never even come close to getting started on it. But I think it would be a really good resource to make for myself.
I think that would be helpful.
It'd help a lot with pricing, I think.
For you to be able to price yourself better. That way you end the job with a price you're happy with.
Yeah.
But not only that, it also makes you look more professional. Like if there's a way for you to communicate that's how you're pricing people, then they wouldn't feel weirded out by if your number seems high. They'd be like,
Right,
that makes sense.
that's
It costs
true.
you, it takes you 2 hours every 50 square feet of baseboards, something like that.
Yeah, because that's how, like, when I did house flipping, like, we had hired tile guys, and they would charge by this, like, square foot of, like, how much tile would take. And that seemed like a good
that's
way
smart.
to do stuff. I mean, you can't do everything like that, but it'd be helpful for the things that you could.
Well, see, Grant, you are business savvy. I never thought of that.
I have
Genius.
ideas. I never follow
Just
through
don't
on.
implement them. That's all right. We'll follow up and see if you ever implement that. But that seems like genius. Something I think I would like to change is, I just thought of this a couple weeks ago because someone called me to do a disposal in their sink, and I charged them like $50.
Would they get a Badger? Those are good ones.
No, it was I don't remember what the brand, but it wasn't Badger. It was a piece of junk. That's why it broke like after 2 years. The one before, and they just replaced it with the same one.
Depot has their own brand, I think, and it's not great. But
Yeah, it was probably cheap. Anyway, but that job, for example, I mean, it takes 15 minutes to change out a disposal.
you're working fast.
For me, it does.
I am as slow as molasses, I think. That'll probably take me a good hour and a half, I think. No joke.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's interesting. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
For me, it takes about 15 minutes to do a disposal.
Yeah.
And so that's great. Like, it's nice to be able to do a job that fast, but that's all they wanted me to do. And I was thinking it would be nice, I think, if I had like a flat rate price. If I just told people, I have a I have like a flat rate of $100 for anything. So if you want me to do a couple other things, that'd be nice. Otherwise, if you want me just to do the disposal, it's going to be $100.
A flat rate? What do you mean, for disposals or like?
No, just for anything. Like say it takes only 10 or 15 minutes to do something, I'm just going to be like, I have a flat rate of $100, like a minimum of $100.
Oh, okay.
Because that one, for example, it was like 25-minute drive there.
Oh,
so I
right.
drove
Yeah,
25
I guess you
minutes.
Calculate the travel time.
It worked. I worked on it for like 10, and then I drove 25 minutes home. And it's like, I wasn't happy with $50 for that. But to them, it's like, well, $50 is kind of a lot for 10 minutes of work. And it is, but if that's all you're going to, it incentivizes people to like add some things. That way it's more worth my time, or just realize that it costs me money to travel to you. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was a thought I had recently that I might try to implement, but I have never done that before, so I don't know if it would
like
work.
A fixed minimum price.
What do you think about that?
No, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea just to have like a minimum price, especially because like people don't really think about it, or I don't think about like travel time is like kind of a big part of it. Like you got to drive to a place, and that takes a while.
It does take a little bit.
So it should be a minimum to make it worth your time to even go there. So I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
That happened to me another time where, it took me a couple hours, so it wasn't the end of the world. I ended up making a decent amount of money, but I forgot to ask them where they live before I said yes to the job.
Ooh.
And then
Tucson.
it was Maricopa, so it wasn't as bad, but it was like
pretty far.
It was almost an hour drive one way, and so I like was not happy with how much I made because I had to commute 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that was a mistake as well. You got to make sure you calculate in your numbers like commute time and stuff like that, time you're going to be at Home Depot, things that you wouldn't think of that have to go in your cost because your time isn't free.
I have that abbreviated as TOHD, time at Home Depot.
Really?
TAHD. Yeah,
I love that.
That's in my totals.
That's beautiful.
I'm going to go to Lowe's too, but Home Depot is just like my go-to.
It's the go. If you think of home improvement stores, you think of Home Depot, not Lowe's. Screw Lowe's.
You don't like Lowe's?
No, I don't mind Lowe's. I end up going to Home Depot more anyway, so I don't really have anything against them.
I used to work at
Home Depot is like my default. So
it's I like it.
All right, we talked about most of these other bullet points I have here. Oh, here's a question: has anybody ever fought you on the price?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't think anyone ever has. No. I've never had an issue with that.
Yeah, we're just two guys, but I would say generally, if you guys step into like what we're doing, that's probably going to be your experience. Like if you do good work, it's one thing if you're doing bad work, but if you do good work like we do, people are going to be happy, even if it seems to you like it's kind of expensive. And for me, like, I wouldn't know if I'd want to pay that, but people are happy if you give them what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I've never had anybody, like my whole business, never had anybody complain about my price. And maybe they didn't tell me. Maybe they thought it was high, but they didn't say anything. But nobody's like verbally said, "Oh, that's so high."
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's ever told me that. Yeah.
There was one time when my estimate was a little high, and the guy was like, "This seems way too high." I was tiling a bath, like a shower, and I think I told him like $4,000 or something to tile the shower, and he was like, "That seems like way too much," and I was like, "Yeah, maybe it is." And so I was like, "I'll drop it by 20%," and I dropped it, and he still didn't go with me. He thought it was too much still, even after the 20% drop. And so I just didn't take the job, and I was happy with that. And I don't know, like that was the only time someone's like been upset about even my estimate price.
Right. I think that's a good thing to keep in mind because I do spend a lot of time, or like when I'm thinking or like starting a job or thinking of an estimate, is like I kind of worry about charging too much, but I've never really had an issue with someone complaining about my price anyway, so maybe I shouldn't worry about it too much.
But then again, maybe no one complains because you worry about it so much.
That's true. Maybe I do get it pretty like accurate that people like the price I give them every time anyway. So
it's good to balance though. You want to be able to provide a good product for a good price, but you also don't want to be wasting your time when you could be more productive at other jobs.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for our discussion on pricing. So we're going to end the show with a question of the week. Here's my question for you, Grant, and for myself. I'll answer it after you. Have you ever been caught doing nothing on the job or doing something embarrassing?
Oh, yeah. One time I took an extended lunch.
How extended?
Well, I didn't want to like get their couch dirty, so I just like took one of their pillows and put it up against the baseboards and just laid on the floor and while I was eating lunch.
Nice.
And then I took a little nap and then they walked in.
You fell asleep?
I fell asleep.
Oh my gosh.
And they woke up, or I woke up like as they walked in, or like kind of jumped up and like pretended like I was doing something.
You pretended like you were doing something?
No, I was just like got up and like grabbed my tape measure and like walked somewhere else. And,
Do you ever do that thing where you like tap your drill against the wall or something to pretend like you're doing something but you're really on your phone?
I'll make some kind of noise, yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we're not trying to deceive people, folks. It's
No,
just
no.
that sometimes you've got to like you
Days
wanna
are
look at
long
someone,
sometimes,
you want to
yeah.
like change your podcast or something on your
break.
phone and you feel bad.
Yeah.
But you want to seem like you're actually working. Anyway, there was one time I was sitting in my car like waiting for paint to dry. I like had done a drywall repair and then I put primer on it, and for whatever reason the primer was taking ages to dry. So I was waiting like an hour. And I just sat in my car and watched YouTube. And the guy who owned the house, hired me, he'd walked out and he was just kind of like giving me a weird look. It was just like staring at me. And it was so uncomfortable, but I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't have anything else to do. I have to wait for this paint to dry.
Can't really touch it yet.
So that was really uncomfortable, but I don't really know a way around that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our episode on pricing. Thank you for joining us for our second episode of what is the show, Grant? What's the acronym?
The BCBP.
Nice. I love it. All right. Be sure to subscribe, everybody, because we are just starting out, but we're going to be releasing episodes at least every other week, possibly every single week. So you'll want to tune in. Thank you. Bye.
And the night we watch the world fly by. Let's get back, live it a second time. Rewind the tape cause it went so fast. Sometimes in this life you wish the future could be. And the night we watch the world fly by. Let's get back, live it a second time. Rewind the tape cause it went so fast. Sometimes in this life you wish the future could be. Oh, it could be